Hi guys, welcome to the very first video on this new series. If you are new to this series, then well, today we're going to start with the character that we left off on the previous masterclass where we did the whole high poly count. So let me open the character here real quick so we can go over what the main goal for this one's going to be. If you navigate to your folders, to your project folders, you're going to find this asset called Thyros High Poly, which is the result from the last series where we did the whole character. Now, throughout this series, our main focus is going to be to convert this high poly character into a mesh that we can use inside of a game engine. So we're going to convert this 62 million points, which is like 120 million polygons, into something that can be used inside of Unreal or inside of any sort of game engine. So the first thing that we need to understand is that there are a lot of pieces to this guy. Thankfully, when we were doing the high poly version, we did keep things organized. So we have the body, we have the legs, we have the belt, the arms, and this is pretty much like the sections that we're going to be working with for all of the characters. So we're going to start with one of these pieces, and we're going to be doing all of them as well. The only thing that we're not going to be doing as in regards to retopology is the hair. The hair right here will eventually be done with grooming. We're going to have like a real hair working here with the character. So before we jump onto the actual retopology process, I just want to give you guys a quick overview of how we're going to be separating this. There's basically three different ways in which we can do retopology here inside of our softwares. We can do retopology inside of ZBrush, we can do retopology inside of Maya, and we can also do retopology inside of Blender. Now, since we have users from all of those different softwares, I'm going to show you the best tools for each of those softwares, and then I'm just going to use whichever one fits the best for each specific part. However, all of the techniques that I'm going to be showing are applicable to all of the different softwares. It's just which one you are more comfortable with and which one you have more experience with. Now, before we jump into actually retopologizing this guy, we need to understand that we can't just bring this 62 million polygons into any software, except for ZBrush, of course. We can't bring this into Blender or into Maya. We need to follow a process known as decimation. I've talked about decimation before, but if this is the first time you hear about this, decimation is a really cool thing that now exists in pretty much the entire 3D packages. Every single 3D package now has some sort of decimation, but ZBrush was probably one of the first ones to do it. This is a very old document. I remember 10 years ago seeing the information about this. And what it does is as follows. As you can see here, we have this character. I think his name was DC from Gears of War. And this guy is at 5 million polygons. And what you could do, or what you can do with decimation, is you can bring the character all the way down to 50,000 vertices right here, while keeping most of the silhouette intact. As you can see, if we look at the thumbnails, not the details, but the thumbnails right here, they're pretty much indistinguishable from one on the other. And this is perfect for retopology purposes because we can work with a really low poly mesh and then later on bake all of this high poly detail into our characters. So the way this animation works is really easy. I'm going to show you real quick with the axe head right here. So I'm just going to clone this to work on a different file over here. And the way this works is as follows. You go to C plugin, you go to decimation master, and you hit pre-process current. What this will do is it will analyze at the surface of the object that you want to decimate, and it will prepare it for the decimation process. You always need to decimate your object or to pre-process your object before you do anything. I'm just going to click here to rotate from there. And you can see right now we have 882,000 points, almost 1 million points, which would be almost 2 million polygons if we bring this into Blender or Maya. Now that this has been pre-processed here in the C plugin, we can actually go down here to the decimation and we can decide the percentage of decimation that we want. For baking purposes, when we're going to be baking down the details, a 20% decimation is really good. If I hit decimate current, you can see we go down to 176,000 polys or points. And you can see we barely lose any detail. Like, it's pretty much indistinguishable where the detail was lost. So this is perfect to bring, for instance, into Substance Painter for the normal map baking and for all of the different processes that we're going to do once we get into texturings. However, for retopology purposes, it's still a little bit too high. So I'm going to press Control C to go back to 800,000 points. And we're going to go C plugin. I'm going to decimate this like really low, like a 2%. I'm going to hit decimate current. As you can see now, it's a little bit more noticeable. beautiful. You can see all of the triangles. When you see it from afar, it's pretty much still the same thing. But when you get closer, it's definitely like a lot rougher, right? However, the edge or the silhouette of the object is pretty much the same. You can see when I press Control C there, you don't change anything. And again, if I show you this too, it's very difficult unless you have like a full HD screen. It's very difficult to notice the difference. But this one is way more easy to work with inside of Blender or Maya for the retopology things because it has way less points. You can see the difference in points. This is 17,000 points and this is 882,000 points. So you can see that even though we do lose quite a bit of detail, we keep pretty much all of the other important things that we want. Now, one of the problems, though, is we have 77 points right here on our character, and it would be a really long time for me to go through each one of them and decimate it so that we have a workable surface. Thankfully, we don't have to do that. There is a very cool shortcut inside of the decimation master plugin that we can use. As you can see right here where it says C plugin, you can actually pre-process all of your subtools at the same time, which what's it going to do is it's going to go to each individual subtool and it's going to create a cache, like a file that you're not going to be able to access, where it's going to save all of that information. However, there's a couple of important things, and I wanted to include this on the first video because it's one of the things that people quite often forget. First of all, you need to make sure that all of the objects that you are remeshing or decimating have a unique name. You cannot have anything named like psurface1 and then psurface1 again, like in a different folder. Every single object has to be its own name. And as you can see, all of these guys follow that specific approach. All of these guys have the exact same naming convention that we want. So once I have that, you can go to, again, C plugin, pre-process all. It's going to take a little bit of time. It's not super fast, but it's going to take some time. And once you do that, you can set a percentage of decimation. I think I set mine to 5%, and then you can hit decimate all to just go through all of the different subtools and create the decimation version. And I actually do have the decimation version right here. As you can see, even the size is like 10 times smaller. And there you go. This, as you can see, only has 3.4 million points for everything compared to the 62 million points. So we were able to go quite low. We can go, for instance, to this little stone, only 8,000 points. So this is perfect. This is perfect because Maya doesn't really have an issue, neither does Blender, when working with the millions of polygons. It's when you have one single object that has millions of polygons, that's when you get into issues. But if you have like multiple objects and all of them combined create a multi-million character, that's perfectly fine. So now that we have this, we can actually export this into Maya, right? So over here you have a couple of options. You have this one, for instance, export all subtools with GoC. I don't usually like to use GoC. GoC is this like add-on as well, like a plugin that connects it to Maya. Or you can just go to C plugin, and there's one called FBX export import. And you can select FBX export import. You can do visible so that all of the visible subtools are exported. XBX 2020 is fine. You can click here if you want a different version, but 2020 should be perfectly fine. Oh, let me go back. There we go. Bin is fine. Like that's all of these things are perfectly fine. You definitely do want to smooth the normal so that you don't get any weird behavior. And you just hit export. Once we can do that, we can go here to our assets. And as you can see, one of the things that I did, I'm going to talk about this on the next video. When you go inside of Maya, you can create a new project. I suspect most of you already know how to do this, but let me just very quickly do it for you guys in case some of you are a little bit new to the Maya environment. But instead of Maya, when you create a new project, it actually creates all of these assets for you, all of these folders that you're seeing right here. And what I can do here is I can go to assets, and we can create a couple of folders. I created decimated meshes bake, decimated meshes retopo, and retopologized meshes. These three folders I created myself. And here on decimated meshes is where I'm going to export. I'm going to call this Thyros full character. I'm just going to hit a save. Okay. As you can see, well, right now Maya is blocking this, but everything should have been exported. And here instead of Maya, where you create the project is over here, file. A project window, you create a new project, you decide where you want to have it, and after you do that, you're going to have all of the necessary folders that you normally have for this sort of stuff. Very important, every time you're going to start working on a project, you need to go set project, and you need to go to the project that you're using. So in this case, I'm going to go to character textures, Thyros character, I'm going to set the project. Why? Because when I hit Control O, for instance, which is open, it will automatically go to whatever the project that I set is currently selected. So if I go to assets, I can go and import things. For instance, I can go File, Import, and if I go to the assets folder right here, you can see the same ones. We have the Thyros full character, and I can hit Import. And if everything worked as intended, in just a few seconds, I should have here inside of my scene the decimated character. It's going to be quite a bit. It's like, 6 million polygons probably, but it should be divided into all of the different 77 parts that we have for the character. So, yeah, there we go. The character's right here. We did got an error, but I don't see anything wrong with the character, so that tells me that we're on a good position. And we're ready to start with the retopology process. So the next couple of videos, I'm going to start talking about the retopology tools and the retopology principles that we need to follow when we're working here inside of Maya. I can definitely see a couple of pieces like this guys right here that are were not decimated properly. And the reason why these guys were not decimated properly is because they were really low poly, but we can very easily recreate them or just export the high poly version, which is not a high poly version. But yeah, that's fine. Like those low pieces, that's perfectly fine. Sometimes it's a lot easier to just rebuild a couple of elements after you're at this stage of the character process. So yeah, that's it for this one, guys. I'm going to stop the video right here. And in the next one, we're going to talk about real world scale and some of the retopology principles. So hang on tight and I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.